you guys go? Hey, hey! Yeah. Oh, he's down. You good? Okay. Yeah, he fell down. He was trying to change. Yep, we're good. I'm gonna let him go first. He's battling the sand right now. What's up guys, this is Andrew with Motorcycles Off-Road. In this Friday's video, I want to go over my 5 tips for making you a better rider off-road with dual sports or dirt bikes. Now I felt the need to make this video because I have seen other tips on off-road riding or how to ride off-road, and honestly I feel like they're kind of basic and not really helpful for a lot of new riders. In this video I hope to give you more insight on becoming a better rider for beginners all the way up to early intermediate skills. I feel when we get to tip number 2, you will start to see the value of what I'm trying to explain here, and that many people can benefit for what we go over. And if you are a beginner or an early intermediate, I will also be making a drills video for practicing that should completely move your off-road skills out of the beginner range and make you feel much more comfortable. That will be coming in the next couple weeks, so hit the sub button and turn on notifications to keep informed for the videos so you don't miss that video. But if you just can't wait and you want to see those tip videos sooner than later, before I string them all together in one entire video on YouTube, I will be putting the drills in separate sections released on my Patreon. Patreon's a great way to support the channel, as well as get exclusive content and content before others get to see it. Link is in the first comment below. Alright, so let's just move into number 1. Okay, number 1, as I said, is a more beginner tip, but I feel like I have to go over number 1 so we can make way to move into number 2. So what I've seen in a ton of beginner riders, they like to sit on the bike. Okay, that's fair. You don't feel comfortable with your balance yet, and you feel like you want to be closer to the ground, so maybe you can dab your foot, and that's fine. But a lot of people sit on the motorcycle wrong. Okay, what do I mean by that? How can you sit on the motorcycle wrong? Well, in most riding situations, when I see people sit on the bike, they sit way far back, to the point where they lose some control of the motorcycle, and I feel this is something you can do that is the opposite of building skills and progressing your path forward to becoming a better rider. The problem is, when people sit far back, they casually ride as if they're riding a bicycle with their shoulders lax and their arms at their sides. This is not letting your motorcycle suspension do its work, and it's perpetuated even more with something with soft suspension like the Honda 300L. In most riding situations, or just cruising around, I want people to ride with their hips forward. With a straight back, good posture, this will help you build skills on the bike and be able to feel your maneuvers and where your traction should be. You will start to feel whether you need to slide forward or slide back, depending on the situation, and really, you shouldn't be lazy here. So this is my daughter Alexis. She's 5 foot 2 inches tall, and there's not a single bike that I bought that she can't ride. I mean, she's been riding for years after all. But look at her hip placement as she sits. It's in a direct line over the swing arm, and her knees can squeeze the tank. This gives her more control. It seems awkward at first, but in a normal riding condition, I want you to have your hips over top of the foot pegs and your knees squeezing the tank. Now you have more control over the motorcycle, and you're also not relying on a rear suspension to do the entire work. So as I said, this leads into my number 2. Okay, number 2, this one is super important, and if you master this, eventually you'll be able to cut turns like the pros. My tip here is for at least 1 year of riding, I want you to approach every situation and consider where you want your traction. Envision your tires and where you need your weight to be and where you would like to apply your traction. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, if you come into a turn and you need more traction to make the turn properly, where would you put your weight? Well, first ask yourself this. Do you ever come up to a turn and you're very hesitant and you slow down, then you roll through the turn, then you power out of it? When I go into a turn, I care a lot less of what my rear tire is doing and much more what my front tire is doing. So that's where I'm going to apply my weight. I want my front tire to bite in so that the front tire doesn't wash out, and I can give it plenty of traction so it can direct the bike in the direction that I want it to go. So in these cases, I want you to lean forward and envision your front tire getting all the traction. This will greatly speed up your cornering and you will enter these turns much more safely. Well, let's go into a unique situation. Let's talk about a berm. Well, the same concept applies here, but with the berm, it's slightly different because we have lateral reinforcement. So what do we have to think in our head? Okay, we want our traction to our front tire, but we're not going to be straight up and down in this situation. What we want is our traction hitting, and in this case, 45-degree angle. So you have to envision that. Envision your weight into the front, you lean lean over to the side and you're trying to stand the bike up at a 45-degree angle, putting all of its weight on the berm, because it will support your bike and it will slingshot you through the turn. Now let's look at a completely different scenario. Let's look at mud or maybe even sand. How do we tackle this? Well, we need traction to the rear. In these situations, I don't want the front getting the control. I don't want to put my weight in the front because the bike naturally wants to go in a straight line. Now, if I start putting weight in the front's going to seek and it's going to guide the bike. So say when you start to hit mud, it could start to go left and right and get a little squirrely, and that stuff's scary. So since the bike naturally wants to go in a straight line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to lean back. I'm going to want to envision my weight going over my rear tire, and I'm going to want to power through it at a consistent throttle and speed. And also keep in mind there's a threshold. If you ride slow, your bike's going to want to fall down. Can you just stand on your bike and just balance it perfectly? That's very hard. And then couple that with loose ground and slightly moving, that's a lot more challenging. So you want to have a consistent speed. You want to lean back and envision your traction down on the ground on the rear tire. You pick your line and you commit to that line and you drive through it. So the bottom line with this tip, I always want you to look at every situation and consider where you need your traction and visualize yourself putting your body to that traction point so that the correct tire can apply that traction to move the bike in the ways that you want it to move, not where it wants to move. Okay, number 3. And once again, number 3 might be a little bit of a beginner, but we have to move through number 3 so we can get to number 4. And my number 3 is I want to talk about controlling the bike and the bike controls. And it seems simple, but it's not. See, a lot of people just sit on the bike and they drop their legs with no control and they paddle through situations. Yes, you can do this, but now you're just getting through the situation. You're not becoming a better rider. You're not doing anything positive, but getting through that situation. So when you run into a situation like this again, you're at the same spot you started with. Instead, envision the bike as having multiple controls. Of course, the tank, where your knees are, and the handlebars are controls of the motorcycle. Also, your foot pegs. That is input. You can apply weight from one side of the bike to the other through the foot pegs, which will give you much more ability to control your motorcycle. Also, if you always keep your feet on the foot pegs and you squeeze the tank, this translates very well into once you become an intermediate rider and you find yourself standing a lot more. You're already in that position. Your body already knows what to do to manipulate the motorcycle to pick specific lines so that you can navigate perfectly through terrain and obstacles. So when that day comes, you'll have full manipulation and control of the motorcycle to point it to where you want to go. So just concentrate on keeping all points of contact that you can on the motorcycle as it's controlled. Feet, knees, and arms on the handlebars. Now, sitting on the seat, that's not as important. The only time I say that sitting on the seat is actually necessary is berm turns, as we talked about earlier. Most other times you're going to want to be upstanding, but that comes in practice. Number 4. Okay, so now you've been practicing where your traction needs to be. You've been practicing complete control of the motorcycle. Now you need to properly apply this. When riding, some things are really going to be intimidating to you. But the main thing is that you have confidence and know your abilities and know you can do it. If you have doubts or if you think you can't do it, then you can't do it. So you must know that you can do it. So many failed attempts happen only because people get scared or they bail out midway through whatever the obstacle could be. Maybe it's a hill climb. Good advice would be practice, work your way up. Go through small mud pits, then start going through larger mud pits. Take your time to build your skills. So then when you come to a hill climb that could have been quite intimidating, you think to yourself, well, I've done the other one, I could probably do this one, it's relatively the same. Or, I've done far worse than this is no problem at all. And then you run right through it without any hesitation or loss of skills. Now why don't we apply this visually? So look at something like muddy, or how about a water crossing? Where would you need your weight? Well, I want to envision that I want the traction on the rear wheel, and I want the bike to stay in a front straight line of travel. With confidence, we can keep the bike planted, and we can keep our feet on the foot pegs, and keep full traction in the rear tire. This should be easy.
That is so deep. That was a lot deeper than I thought it was.
What do you think?
It was fine. I'm not even wet.
I'm gonna hit a rut. Watch.
See?
Yeah, you gotta do it.
What did you say?
It's really not bad, come on.
Now watch Kyle. This is new terrain for Kyle, and he was quite hesitant, and you can see the exact moment when he starts to lose it. Well, what happened? Why did the bike go where it wanted to go? Well, he lost confidence, and he stopped applying traction to the rear wheel. He took his feet off the pegs. He just got spooked. It happens to all of us. Right when he took his feet off the pegs, you can see he lost his ability to control the motorcycle. If you slow it down, you can see the exact second that all these things happened in tandem. So as you can see, to do something on a motorcycle, you must also first know that you can do it on the motorcycle. You don't want to just make it through, you want to make it through confidently, and you want to always be honing your skills for the next obstacle. And as I said, in a couple weeks I should be posting a video with more drills to make you a better rider, and this will help also build your confidence for the future. So make sure you sub so you don't miss that, or check it out on the Patreon. So number 5, my 5th tip. Now for this one, there was tons of stuff I could put here. I feel like we got some of the important stuff out of the way, the most pressing stuff, but there's one thing that bugs me that a lot of people take a long time to break, and that involves finding your line, particularly on turning. I see so many riders looking down as they ride, and worse, they look down at the front wheel on a turn, just seeing what's immediately in front of them. Not only do I want you to look ahead, but I want you to turn your head. It sounds simple, right? But so many people get caught up in looking straight in front of them that when they get to the turn, it starts to be problematic, or they lose confidence. Always keep in mind to turn your head, and then the bike will follow. As an example, when I approach a turn, here I am scanning ahead. My brain has already done all the mental calculations from the direct path in front of me. Now I need to worry about what's going on in this direction. And I have the bike follow my line of sight, and then I can easily navigate the turn. Head motion plays a big role here. Look, I wrestled and I did jiu-jitsu for over 15 years, and I can tell you where you manipulate somebody's head or where their eyes are going, the body will follow. And this is the same with a motorcycle. It's very hard to even ride in a straight line when your head's turned and cocked and looking at stuff on the side. You start to feel weary and unstable. While countering that, the same concept applies, but in reverse, in cornering. If you start to do this tip well, and you remember tip number 2, in no time you will find yourself more safely and more quickly navigating turns and cutting corners. So before I wrap this up, I'd just like to say thank you all for watching this long. Let me know in the comments below so I can give you one of those big old hearts. I don't give those hearts out often, so if you see someone with a heart, you know the deal. And also, I'd really like to thank you for trusting me with giving you some riding advice. I mean, this is your life. This is a dangerous thing we all do, but we all do it because of how wonderful it makes us feel. And I have respect for anyone that decides to throw a leg over a motorcycle. In a way, we are few, and we are all in this together. I also have to thank my patrons. These guys are awesome, and they are supporting me in my journey in the early stage of where I'm going to take this channel with motorcycles off-road. They are my producers, if you will. I really hope these tips are useful to you, and I hope on your journey to becoming a better rider, you found value in this video. So keep a lookout for the drills video. My name is Andrew, and this is Motorcycles Off-Road. Stay safe out there, guys.